What if everything you've been taught about manifesting money has been keeping you broke? I know that sounds harsh, but stay with me here, because what I'm about to share with you challenges everything you thought you knew about attracting wealth. For years, you've probably been doing the vision boards, repeating the affirmations, meditating on abundance, maybe even journaling about your financial goals every single morning. And yet, here you are, still waiting for that breakthrough, still wondering why the money isn't flowing the way all those manifestation gurus promised it would. Has this ever happened to you? You follow the steps perfectly. You visualize your bank account overflowing. You feel the feelings of already having the money. You do everything by the book, and then you check your actual bank account and nothing has changed. Maybe a little comes in here and there, but it's always tied to how hard you worked, how many hours you put in, how much you hustled. It never feels like true manifestation. It feels like you're just working for money the old-fashioned way. Here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody in the manifestation community wants to admit. Traditional manifestation techniques are designed to keep you stuck in what I call the source trap. You're constantly looking for where the money will come from. A new client, a better job, a business opportunity. And while there's nothing wrong with those things, they all require something from you. They require your time, your energy, your effort, and there's only so much of you to go around. But before we go deeper into this, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Now, what if I told you there's a completely different approach? An approach that doesn't rely on you working harder, creating more content, finding more clients, or building another income stream. What if money could simply appear? Not from a job, not from a sale, not from anything you strategically planned, but from places you didn't even know existed. From forgotten accounts, from refunds you never claimed, from opportunities that find you instead of you chasing them. I know it sounds too good to be true. What you're about to discover might surprise you, because this method operates on a completely different frequency than what you've been taught. While everyone else is grinding away, trying to manifest opportunities that still require work, there's a small group of people who have figured out how to bypass that entire system. They've learned how to shift their awareness in a way that makes invisible money become visible. They're not working 10 times harder. They're tapping into something that makes money appear 10 times faster. And the most interesting part, the money was already there all along. They just learned how to see it. So the question becomes, are you ready to learn how to see it too? Because once you understand this shift, once you activate this particular frequency, the transformation started for me about 3 months ago when I stumbled upon something that completely shifted my entire relationship with money. I'm talking about a genuine loophole in how we've been taught to approach abundance. And I need to be completely transparent with you here. When I first heard about this, I was skeptical. I thought it was just another repackaged manifestation technique dressed up in new language. But what happened over the following 2 weeks completely shattered my skepticism. Within 15 days of applying this specific method, I found $800 in a PayPal account I had completely forgotten existed. Not manifested through a new client, not earned through extra work. It was just sitting there, waiting for me to notice it. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, I received a notification about a refund I never even knew I was owed. $1,900 just appeared in my account. And here's where it gets even more interesting. An opportunity I never applied for, never sought out, never even knew existed contacted me and resulted in $3,500 flowing into my life. Now, I want to go even deeper into this because understanding the mechanics behind this shift is what makes It repeatable. The hidden truth that most manifestation teachers won't tell you is that your brain is already programmed to look for money, but it's looking in all the wrong places. Your awareness has been trained to scan for opportunities to earn rather than money that already exists. It's a subtle but profound difference in how your mind processes information. Think about it. When you wake up and think about money, where does your mind go? Probably to your job, your clients, your business. Ideas, right? That's source thinking. That's the old paradigm. If this resonated with you, subscribe to this channel. Everything I share here is designed to give you practical methods that actually work in the real world. But there's a completely different way your consciousness can operate. Instead of constantly searching for the next source of income, you can train your awareness to scan for money that's already in your energetic field, but invisible to your current perception. This isn't about wishful thinking or positive vibes. This is about rewiring the actual scanning mechanism of your subconscious mind. The impact of this shift is immediate because you're not trying to create something new. You're simply becoming aware of what already exists. The journey from source thinking to receiving thinking requires a specific activation, a kind of mental command that redirects your brain's search patterns. And once that redirection happens, the revelations start flowing. Money you forgot. About surfaces. Refunds you didn't know existed find their way to you. Opportunities you never pursued somehow discover you instead. It's not magic. It's a fundamental change in what your awareness is programmed to detect. Write in the comments, "I'm ready to receive from nowhere," if this resonates with you so far. The moment I understood that this was about frequency rather than effort, everything clicked into place. See, most of us have been operating under the assumption that if we want more money, we need to do more work. More clients, more projects, more hustle, but that's approaching wealth from a completely exhausted paradigm. What I discovered is that money responds to a specific vibrational frequency, and when you're tuned into that frequency, it doesn't matter how hard you're working. What matters is what your consciousness is actively scanning for in your environment. This is where the traditional manifestation approach completely falls apart. You've got people spending 30 minutes every morning, visualizing their dream bank account, repeating affirmations about abundance, creating elaborate vision boards with images of the lifestyle they want. And all of that has its place, don't get me wrong. But here's the critical flaw. After all that visualization and affirmation, they go back into their day and immediately slip into source thinking. They start looking for the job that will pay them, the client who will hire them, the business idea that will generate revenue. They've set an intention, sure, but then they're passively waiting for opportunities that still require their time and energy to convert into money. The hidden truth behind this pattern is that it keeps you in a perpetual state of dependency. You're dependent on someone hiring you, someone buying from you, someone saying yes to you. Your financial reality is always at the mercy of external sources, and even when manifestation works in this framework, what you've actually manifested is just another form of work, another demand on your finite time and energy. There's a ceiling built into this approach because you only have 24 hours in a day and a limited capacity for output. But frequency activation operates on an entirely different principle. When you shift into the receiving frequency, your brain stops searching for sources and starts detecting money that's already present but invisible to your current awareness. It's like suddenly having access to channels you didn't know your consciousness could tune into. Behind the scenes, your subconscious is constantly processing millions of pieces of information, but it only brings to your conscious awareness what it thinks is relevant based on your programming. Change the programming, change what becomes visible. The impact of this shift isn't gradual, it's immediate. Because you're not trying to create new income streams or build new opportunities from scratch. You're simply becoming aware of financial resources that were always there. sitting in forgotten accounts, tied up in unclaimed refunds, waiting in overlooked places. Your journey to wealth doesn't have to be about grinding harder. It can be about perceiving differently. And when your perception shifts to this receiving frequency, money starts appearing from directions you never thought to look. Type in the comments, "I choose the receiving frequency," if you're ready to make this shift with me. Let me paint a picture that might feel uncomfortably familiar. You finally crack the code on manifesting clients or opportunities. You're visualizing consistently, your mindset is aligned, and boom, it works. Suddenly you've got 5 new clients, a project that pays well, maybe even a business idea that's gaining traction. You celebrate because manifestation is finally working for you. But then reality sets in. You realize that even though you manifested these opportunities, you're now working 12-hour days. You're constantly exhausted. You can't take a vacation because if you stop working, the money stops flowing. You manifested income, sure, but you also manifested a cage made of your own time and energy. This is the invisible ceiling that nobody talks about in the manifestation community. Even when you get really good at attracting opportunities, you're still fundamentally limited by how many hours exist in a day and how much energy your body and mind can sustain. You can serve 10 clients maximum before your quality drops. You can build one business at a time before you spread yourself too thin. And yes, you might manifest $5,000 this month, maybe even $10,000 if you really push. But here's the uncomfortable truth. You earned every penny of that through your labor. The moment you stop hustling, the income evaporates. The transformation that needs to happen isn't about getting better at manifesting work opportunities. It's about fundamentally shifting from an earning paradigm to a receiving paradigm. Because as long as you're in the earning mindset, every dollar that comes into your life has your sweat attached to it. Your manifestation practice becomes just a spiritual wrapper around the same old grind. You're still trading your finite life energy for money, just with affirmations and vision boards thrown into the mix. Behind the scenes of every income breakthrough you've had so far, there's been effort involved. A pitch you had to make, a service you had to deliver, a product you had to create, content you had to publish. And that's not wrong. Action matters, contribution matters. But when that's the only channel through which money can reach you, you've accidentally built a prison with manifestation techniques as the bars. Your financial ceiling becomes a direct reflection of your physical limitations. There are only so many hours you can work without burning out, only so many clients you can serve before quality suffers, only so many projects you can juggle before something drops. The revelations that emerged from understanding this limitation completely changed my approach. I realized I wasn't trying to manifest more opportunities to work. I needed to activate channels where money could flow without requiring my active participation in earning it. Money that was already mine, already available, just waiting for my awareness to shift enough to notice it. The impact of recognizing this distinction was immediate because I stopped asking, "How can I earn more?" and started asking, "Where is money already present that I'm not seeing?" Write in the comments, "I'm breaking the time for money ceiling," if this is hitting home for you. Source thinking is so deeply embedded in our consciousness that most people don't even recognize it as a choice. It's just how we've been conditioned to understand the relationship between effort and reward. From childhood, we're taught that money comes from work. You get a job, you earn a paycheck, you start a business, you make sales, you offer a service, clients pay you. The entire framework is built on this idea that money needs a logical, traceable source. And because everyone around you operates from this same belief system, it feels like objective reality rather than just one possible paradigm. But here's where things get fascinating. Money doesn't actually need a source. It exists independently of your labor, your clients, your business operations. Right now, at this very moment, there's money, sitting in accounts you've forgotten about. There are refunds processing that you don't even know you're owed. There are opportunities that have your name on them that you never applied for, never sought out, never strategically positioned yourself to receive. This money exists, it's real, it's yours, but you can't see it because your brain isn't scanning for it. Your awareness is laser-focused on sources. Where can I earn? Who can I serve? What can I sell? And that narrow focus makes everything outside of that channel completely invisible to you. If you found value in this, hit that like button. It helps more people discover content like this and lets me know this is connecting with you. The hidden truth that changed everything for me was realizing that my brain was filtering out financial abundance that was already present in my reality. It's not that the money wasn't there, it's that my consciousness was programmed to only recognize money that came through effort-based channels. Imagine wearing glasses that filter out certain colors. You'd walk through a garden and genuinely believe those colors don't exist because you literally cannot perceive them. That's what source thinking does to your financial awareness. It filters out all the money that exists outside of work-based acquisition. The transformation happens when you understand that perception isn't passive, it's programmable. Your subconscious mind is constantly scanning your environment for what it's been trained to prioritize. If you've trained it to look for opportunities to earn, that's what it shows you. But those opportunities still require your participation, your energy, your time. They're not wrong, but they're limiting. When you reprogram your awareness to scan for money that already exists, money that's sitting idle, waiting, available, an entirely different reality becomes visible. Behind the scenes of your conscious awareness, there's a wealth of financial resources that your current programming simply bypasses. The impact of this shift isn't about believing harder or visualizing more intensely. It's about fundamentally changing what your awareness is trained to detect. And once that detection mechanism shifts, money starts appearing from places that seemed impossible before. Your journey from scarcity to abundance isn't about creating more sources. It's about recognizing that abundance already surrounds you. You've just been looking through filtered lenses. Drop in the comments, money is already here, if you're starting to see through the illusion of source thinking. The loophole I'm about to explain to you isn't theoretical or metaphorical. This is literal. Money can and will appear in your life from places that have no logical connection to your current efforts. I'm not talking about the universe conspiring to send you a new client or a job opportunity. I'm talking about money showing up from channels you didn't create, didn't pursue, and in some cases, didn't even know existed. This happens when your awareness shifts from searching for sources to detecting what's already present but invisible to your current perception. Let me be very specific here because this is where most people's rational mind wants to shut down and dismiss what I'm saying. Right now, today, there is money that legally belongs to you sitting dormant somewhere. Maybe it's in a PayPal account you opened years ago and forgot about. Maybe it's a refund from a purchase you made months ago that you never followed up on. Maybe it's an insurance reimbursement that got processed but never claimed. Maybe it's a rebate check that was mailed to an old address. Maybe it's unclaimed property sitting in a state database with your name on it. This isn't fantasy. This is actual money with your name attached to it that you simply haven't collected because your brain isn't scanning for it. Your consciousness right now is locked onto a very specific channel, conventional sources of income. When you think about money, your mind immediately goes to your job, your business, your clients, potential sales. That's where your attention lives. And because that's where your attention lives, everything outside of that channel becomes background noise. Your subconscious filters it out as irrelevant. It's the same mechanism that allows you to have a conversation in a crowded room. Your brain filters out all the other voices so you can focus on the one person in front of you. Useful in that context, but devastating when it comes to financial awareness. The transformation that needs to occur is a deliberate redirection of your brain's scanning mechanism. Behind the scenes of your conscious thought, your subconscious is processing enormous amounts of information every single second. It's deciding what to bring to your attention and what to ignore based on patterns you've reinforced over years. When you've spent your entire life reinforcing the pattern that money comes from work, your brain automatically filters out money that appears through non-work channels. It doesn't register as important. It doesn't trigger awareness, so you walk right past financial resources that are literally yours for the taking. The impact of understanding this distinction cannot be overstated, because once you recognize that your awareness has been systematically filtering out available money, you can make a conscious decision to reprogram that filter. You can train your brain to scan for nowhere money that exists outside the conventional channels you've been taught to monitor. And when that scanning mechanism activates, revelations start flooding in. You'll suddenly remember accounts you haven't checked in years. You'll get impulses to look into refunds or claims you'd completely forgotten about. Type, "I'm activating my nowhere vision" in the comments if you're ready to see what's been invisible until now. The shift from source thinking to receiving thinking feels almost illegal at first. I'm not exaggerating when I say it feels like you've discovered a cheat code that everyone else is playing the game without. Because while everyone around you is grinding, strategizing, networking, pitching and hustling for every dollar, you're simply becoming aware of money that's already there. You're not creating it through effort. You're not earning it through labor. You're just noticing it, claiming it, and allowing it to flow into your life. And that fundamental difference changes everything about your relationship with abundance. When I first experienced this shift, I felt almost guilty, like I was doing something wrong by receiving money without the traditional struggle attached to it. That's how deeply conditioned we are to believe that money must be hard-earned. But here's the hidden truth that nobody wants to acknowledge. The universe doesn't care about your struggle. Money doesn't become more virtuous because you suffered for it. That's a story we tell ourselves to make sense of scarcity, but it has nothing to do with how abundance actually operates. Abundance is about alignment and awareness, not sacrifice and suffering. The transformation that happens when you activate these nowhere channels is cumulative. It's not a one-time event. The first time money appears from an unexpected place and you consciously acknowledge it, you're reinforcing a new neural pathway. Your brain registers this pattern. Look for nowhere money, find nowhere. Money, receive nowhere money. And because your subconscious learns through repetition and reinforcement, every single time you notice and claim money from these channels, the frequency becomes stronger. It compounds. What started as a conscious effort to scan for forgotten accounts or unclaimed refunds gradually becomes an automatic function of your awareness. Behind the scenes of this process, your brain is essentially rewiring itself. You're creating new synaptic connections that prioritize receiving over earning. And as these connections strengthen, you start getting spontaneous impulses to check places you wouldn't normally check. You'll suddenly remember a platform you haven't logged into in years. You'll get an intuitive hit to search for unclaimed property in your state. You'll receive an unexpected email notification about a refund or credit you'd completely forgotten about. These aren't coincidences. This is your newly programmed awareness, bringing invisible money into visibility. The impact of this compounding effect is where things get really interesting. Because after 30 days of consistently activating this frequency, you're not just finding money occasionally. You're operating in a completely different financial reality. Money appears from 5, 10, 15 different nowhere channels throughout the month. Some amounts are small, some are substantial, but they all add up to thousands of dollars that have nothing to do with how hard you worked. They're pure receiving. And the most remarkable part is that this happens alongside whatever you're already earning through conventional means. It's additional, supplemental, layered on top of your existing income streams. Leave a comment saying, "I'm ready to receive automatically," if you can feel this shift becoming real for you. Now let me be very direct with you about how this actually works, because understanding the structure is crucial. This isn't about wishful thinking or repeating magical phrases and hoping money falls from the sky. There's a specific architecture to this shift, and it has three essential components that work together. Think of it like a combination lock. You need all three numbers in the right sequence for it to open. You can't skip one and expect the mechanism to work. The first component is what I call the activation command. This is the linguistic key that initiates the frequency shift in your brain. The second is the protocol itself, which is the practical process you follow to scan for and claim the money. And the third is maintenance, which keeps these nowhere channels open so money continues to flow, rather than appearing once and then disappearing forever. Most people who try manifestation techniques fail because they only engage with one piece of the puzzle. They might repeat affirmations but never take action to actually look for the money. Or they might search their old accounts once but never maintain the frequency, so it fades away. The transformation only happens when all three components are activated and sustained together. Behind the scenes, you're essentially installing new software in your subconscious mind, and like any software, it needs the complete installation package to function properly. The activation command itself is elegantly simple. Money appears from nowhere. 4 words. That's it. But before you dismiss this as just another affirmation, understand what's actually happening when you use this phrase correctly. These words aren't magic. They're not going to summon money out of thin air through some mystical force. What they do is far more practical and powerful. They function as a programming instruction for your subconscious mind. When you say, "money appears from nowhere," you're giving your brain a very specific directive about what to scan for in your environment. The hidden truth in how language shapes consciousness is that your brain takes instructions literally. When you say, "I need to earn money," your brain scans for earning opportunities. When you say, "I want to attract money," your brain looks for attraction mechanisms. But when you say, "money appears from nowhere," you're instructing your brain to search for money that exists outside of conventional channels. You're redirecting the scanning pattern from "where can I earn" to "where is money already appearing?" It's a fundamental rewiring of your awareness priorities. The impact of this linguistic precision cannot be understated. Most manifestation techniques use vague language that keeps your brain confused about what it's actually looking for. But this command is surgical. It tells your brain exactly what pattern to detect. And because your subconscious is incredibly obedient to clear instructions, once you activate this command consistently, your awareness starts automatically scanning for nowhere money. The revelations that follow aren't supernatural. They're the natural result of finally looking in. Places you'd been programmed to ignore your entire life. Comment below, "money appears from nowhere," if you're ready to install this programming in your consciousness. The reason I'm so specific about the word "appears" is because it carries a completely different energetic instruction than the words most people use in manifestation work. When you say, "I want to attract money," or "I'm going to create wealth," you're unconsciously telling your brain that the money doesn't exist yet. You're signaling that it needs to be generated, pulled in from somewhere external, built from scratch. That keeps you locked in creation mode, which inevitably leads you back to source thinking. You start strategizing about how to create that money, which leads you right back to clients, jobs, sales, opportunities that require your active participation. But when you use the word "appears," you're operating from a fundamentally different assumption. You're telling your subconscious that the money already exists. It's not something you need to create or attract. It's something that's going to become visible to you. It's already there, sitting somewhere in your reality, and your job is simply to become aware of it. This single word choice completely transforms the journey your consciousness takes. Instead of looking outward for opportunities to generate income, your awareness turns inward and around, scanning your existing reality for money that's been there all along but invisible to your current perception. The transformation that happens with this linguistic shift is immediate because you're removing the burden of creation from your shoulders. You're not responsible for making money materialize out of nothing. You're simply becoming receptive to noticing what's already present. Behind the scenes, this relieves an enormous amount of psychological pressure. Most people carry this constant anxiety about where the next dollar is going to come from, how they're going to create it, what they need to do to generate it. But when you shift to appears, that anxiety dissolves because you're no longer in control of creation. You're simply in the practice of awareness. Now let me go even deeper into why the phrase "from nowhere" is absolutely critical to this entire mechanism. When you say nowhere, you're giving your subconscious a very specific instruction to bypass all conventional channels. No job, no client, no sale, no business operation. Nowhere means exactly that: money. That has no logical source attached to it in your current awareness. Your brain, when properly programmed, will interpret this as permission to stop scanning for earning opportunities and start detecting money that exists outside the work-for-pay paradigm. The hidden truth about how your subconscious processes language is that it's incredibly literal. If you tell it to look for nowhere money, it will scan for exactly that. It will start bringing to your conscious awareness all the places where money exists without a current source attached to it in your mental framework. Old accounts you forgot, refunds pending, unclaimed property, opportunities that found you rather than you finding them. Your brain has access to all of this information, but it's been filtering it out as irrelevant because you trained it to prioritize source-based income. The impact of adding "from nowhere" to your command is that you're explicitly overriding that filter. Type in the comments, "I see money that already exists," if this level of precision is resonating with you. Now here's where most people completely miss the point and wonder why nothing changes for them. They hear the command, they understand the concept intellectually, they might even say the words a few times, and then they sit back and wait for money to magically appear. And when nothing happens, they conclude the whole thing doesn't work. But that's like reading the instruction manual for a machine and expecting the machine to operate itself. The command is just the activation key. It opens a door, but you still have to walk through that door, and the protocol is what teaches you how to walk through it effectively. The transformation from intellectual understanding to actual manifestation happens in the protocol. This is where theory becomes practice. This is where abstract concepts translate into tangible results. Behind the scenes of every person who successfully shifts into receiving mode, there's a specific sequence of actions they took. They didn't just think about it or believe in it. They followed a precise process that forced their brain to scan in new directions and notice what had been invisible. The protocol is that process. Without it, you're just philosophizing about abundance while your bank account stays exactly the same. The hidden truth that separates people who get results from people who just talk about manifestation is this: your brain learns through action, not through passive consumption. You can listen to 100 videos about manifestation and nothing will change because listening is a passive activity. Your neural pathways don't rewire themselves just because you consumed information. They rewire when you actively engage with new patterns of behavior. That's basic neuroscience. Your brain creates new connections when you do something different, not when you think about doing something different. This is exactly why I'm asking you to type the command rather than Just read it or hear it. When you physically type the words, money appears from nowhere, you're engaging multiple systems in your brain simultaneously. Your visual system is tracking the letters, your motor system is executing the movement, your cognitive system is processing the meaning, and your subconscious is registering this as a deliberate choice you're making. That multi-layered engagement creates neural pathways that are significantly stronger than passive observation. The impact of this active participation cannot be overstated. It's the difference between knowing about something and actually installing it into your operating system. Your journey from where you are now to actually receiving nowhere money requires this level of active commitment. Not just understanding the concept, not just agreeing with the philosophy, but actually engaging with the process in a way that forces your brain to create new patterns. The revelations don't come from thinking about the method. They come from executing it. And execution starts with this seemingly simple act of typing those 4 words and declaring to your subconscious that you're serious about this shift. Write, "I'm engaging," not just watching, in the comments if you're ready to move from theory to practice. The protocol begins with something that might feel awkward at first, but I need you to trust me on this because the science behind it is solid. You're going to say, "Money appears from nowhere" 3 times out loud. Not silently in your head, not whispered under your breath. Actually spoken at normal volume where you can hear your own voice clearly. And I know some of you are already thinking, "That feels weird," or "I can't do that right now because people are around." But here's what you need to understand. Your voice creates a physical vibration that travels through your body and into the space around you. That vibration carries frequency, and frequency is the language your subconscious responds to most powerfully. When you think words silently, they stay abstract. They're just electrical signals bouncing around in your neural network. But when you speak words out loud, you're converting those electrical signals into physical sound waves. You're taking something internal and making it external, which creates a feedback loop. Your ears hear what your mouth speaks, and that auditory input reinforces the command in a way that silent thought simply cannot match. Behind the scenes, you're activating multiple sensory systems simultaneously: vocal, auditory, and even the physical sensation of your vocal cords vibrating. This multi-sensory activation is what creates the frequency shift strong enough to actually reprogram your awareness. The transformation happens in that moment when sound leaves your body and enters your environment. You're no longer just thinking about a concept. You're declaring it into physical reality, and your brain registers declarations very differently than it registers thoughts. Thoughts are hypothetical. Declarations are commitments. When you speak something out loud 3 times, you're telling your subconscious, "This is not a passing idea. This is a directive I'm serious about." The impact of this distinction is enormous because your subconscious knows the difference between casual interest and genuine instruction. Now here's where the protocol gets really precise, and this is the part most people skip, which is exactly why they don't get results. After you say the command each time, you immediately follow it with a question. Not a statement, not another affirmation, a question. You ask, "Where is money appearing from nowhere right now?" And then you stop and actually listen for the answer. This isn't rhetorical. Your brain will respond. It might take a few seconds, it might feel like random thoughts popping up, but answers will come. The hidden truth is that your subconscious already knows where money is hiding in your reality. It has access to all. Your memories, all your accounts, all your past transactions. It knows what you've forgotten, but it's been filtering that information out because you never asked it to look. The moment you ask where, you activate your brain's scanning mechanism. You're essentially running a search query through your subconscious database, and just like a computer search, your brain will start pulling up results. Some will seem obvious, some will seem random, some might even seem stupid or irrelevant. But I Need you to write down every single answer that comes up, no matter how unlikely it seems, because one of those answers is going to lead you directly to money. Drop a comment saying, "Where is my money appearing?" if you're ready to activate this scanning protocol right now. The answers that come up when you ask where are going to test your willingness to trust this process. Because here's what typically happens. Your brain will give you something that sounds completely random, and your rational mind will immediately want to dismiss it. You'll think, "That's ridiculous. There's no money there," or "I already checked that years ago," or "That's probably nothing." And this is the exact moment where most people sabotage their own breakthrough. They filter the answers through their old belief system instead of trusting that their subconscious might actually know something their conscious mind has forgotten. Let me give you some real examples of the kinds of answers that might come up, because understanding the range of possibilities helps you stay open rather than dismissive. Your brain might tell you to check that old PayPal account you haven't logged into since 2015. It might remind you about a freelance platform where you did some work years ago and never withdrew the balance. It might prompt you to search your email for refund notifications that you never followed up on. It might suggest looking into unclaimed property databases in states where you've lived. It might even give you something as specific as, "Check if that insurance company ever processed that claim," or "Look up that rebate you submitted and forgot about." Now here's the critical part that determines whether this works or not. Within 24 hours of doing this protocol, you need to actually check every single channel your brain gave you. Not some of them, not just the ones that seem most likely, every single one. Because the transformation from poverty consciousness to abundance consciousness happens when you demonstrate to your subconscious that you're serious about receiving. When you take action on the information it provides, you're creating a trust relationship with your own intuition. You're proving that when it speaks, you listen. And that trust relationship is what keeps the channels open for future revelations. Behind the scenes of this process, something fascinating is happening. Each time you check a channel, even if you don't find money there, you're reinforcing the scanning pattern. Your brain learns, okay, when we scan for nowhere money, we actually follow through and investigate. That follow-through is what trains your subconscious to keep providing answers. If you ask the question but never check the channels, your brain learns that this is just a theoretical exercise, and it stops participating. But when you prove through action that you're genuinely looking for this money, your subconscious becomes an active partner in helping. You find it. The hidden truth that changes everything is this: money almost never appears in the places you think are most likely. It shows up in the forgotten corners, the overlooked accounts, the dismissed possibilities. That's why filtering your brain's answers is so destructive to the process. Your rational mind doesn't know where the money is. If it did, you would have already found it. Your subconscious knows. It has access to information your conscious mind has long since archived as irrelevant. The impact of trusting those random impulses and actually checking them cannot be overstated. That's where the money is hiding. Comment: I trust my subconscious completely if you're committed to checking every channel without judgment. Let me share exactly what happened when I first did this protocol, because hearing real numbers from real experiences makes this tangible rather than theoretical. I said the command 3 times. I asked where after each repetition, and I wrote down every answer my brain gave me without filtering. Some of the answers seemed promising, some seemed like long shots, but I committed to checking every single one within 24 hours. The first channel I checked was Venmo. Nothing there. 0 balance. I felt a little disappointed but kept going. Next was an old freelance platform I hadn't logged into in probably 3 years. $47 sitting there that I'd completely forgotten to withdraw. Small, but it was something. Then I Search the unclaimed property database for my state, and this is where things got interesting. $800 from a utility deposit I made when I lived in an apartment 5 years ago. I had no idea that money was just sitting there with my name on it. The transformation that happened in that moment wasn't just about finding the money. It was about proving to myself that this actually works. My brain had told me to check these places. I followed through despite my skepticism, and money appeared exactly as the protocol suggested it would. That proof created a shift in my belief system that no amount of positive thinking could have accomplished. Behind the scenes, my subconscious was learning a crucial lesson. When we scan for nowhere money, we find it. That lesson is what opens the floodgates for everything that comes next. But here's where most people make a critical mistake that shuts down the entire process. They find money, they get excited, they take the money, and then they move on with their day without acknowledging what just happened. They treat it like a lucky coincidence instead of recognizing it as confirmation that the frequency is working. And because they don't acknowledge it, their subconscious doesn't register it as a pattern worth repeating. The channels start to close because there's no reinforcement happening. The moment you find money from a nowhere channel, and I mean the exact moment, not later that day, not when you remember, you need to say out loud, money appears from nowhere again. This is not optional. This is not just a nice addition to the protocol. This is the mechanism that creates the feedback loop. You're telling your subconscious, this worked, do it again. Your brain learns through reinforcement. When a behavior produces a result, and that result is immediately acknowledged, the behavior gets strengthened and repeated. That's basic psychology, basic neuroscience, and it applies perfectly to this process. The impact of this immediate reinforcement compounds faster than you might imagine. Because now your subconscious knows with absolute certainty that scanning for nowhere, money produces results. It's not theory anymore, it's proven experience. And once your brain has proven experience to draw from, it becomes exponentially more efficient at repeating the pattern. The revelations start coming faster, your intuitive hits about where to look become more accurate. The amounts you find start increasing because your awareness is operating at a higher frequency. Write in the comments again and again if you understand the power of this reinforcement loop. What happened after I found that initial $847 is where this method reveals its true power. Because most manifestation techniques give you one result and then peter out. You manifest something once, celebrate it, and then spend months trying to recreate that same magic. But this protocol operates differently because it's built on compounding momentum rather than isolated events. The very next day, after I found that money and reinforced it by saying the command again, I received an email from a company I had worked with 2 years prior. They were doing an audit and discovered they had overpaid me on a project and actually owed me an additional $320. I had no idea this was coming. I didn't do anything to trigger it. It just appeared. Now here's what's fascinating about how this unfolded. That email wasn't random luck or cosmic coincidence. My brain had shifted into active scanning mode for nowhere money, and that shift created a kind of energetic magnetism that made opportunities surface. Behind the scenes of your conscious awareness, your subconscious is constantly processing information and making connections you're not aware of. When you activate the nowhere frequency, you're essentially giving your subconscious permission to bring these connections to the surface. Things that would have normally stayed buried in your mental archives suddenly become priority information. The transformation from finding money once to finding it repeatedly happens because you're training your brain that this pattern is important and worthy of continued attention. Your subconscious is like a search algorithm that gets smarter the more you use it. The first time you scan for nowhere money, It's working with limited parameters and outdated programming. But every time you find money and reinforce the command, you're feeding new data into the algorithm. You're teaching it what patterns to prioritize, what signals to pay attention to, what information deserves to be brought to your conscious awareness. Within 7 days of starting this protocol, I had manifested over $3,500 from nowhere. Not from working more hours, not from landing new clients, not from any strategic business move, just from becoming aware of money that was already mine, but had been invisible to my previous scanning frequency. The impact of this on my relationship with abundance was profound because it shattered my belief that money always requires effort to obtain. I realized I'd been leaving money on the table my entire life simply because I wasn't looking in the right places. The hidden truth that most people never discover is that your brain is already an incredibly sophisticated scanning machine. It's processing millions of data points every second and deciding what deserves your attention. The problem isn't that your brain is broken or incapable. The problem is that it's been programmed to scan for the wrong things. It's looking for opportunities to earn when it should be looking for money that already exists. The moment you reprogram that scanning mechanism, everything changes. Your journey from scarcity to abundance becomes less about working harder and more about perceiving accurately. Type, "My brain is scanning for wealth." If you can feel this shift, activating in your own awareness right now, understanding your brain as a scanning machine completely reframes how manifestation actually works. Think about how your reticular activating system operates in everyday life. When you decide you want to buy a red car, suddenly you start seeing red cars everywhere. They were always there on the roads around you, but your brain wasn't prioritizing that information until you gave it a specific search parameter. The cars didn't magically multiply the moment you decided you wanted one. Your awareness simply started filtering reality differently. You began noticing what was always present but previously invisible to your conscious perception. This exact same mechanism applies to money. Except most people have never consciously programmed their brain to scan for it in the right way. From childhood, you've been conditioned to look for earning opportunities. Your parents taught you that money comes from jobs. School reinforced that you trade labor for income. Society continuously validates the narrative that wealth requires hard work and sacrifice, so your brain, being the obedient servant it is, scans exclusively for opportunities to earn, job postings, potential clients, business ideas, ways to monetize your skills. That's where your awareness lives, and consequently, that's the only financial reality you can perceive. But here's the transformation that happens when you activate the nowhere frequency. You're giving your brain a completely different search parameter. You're saying, stop looking for ways to earn and start scanning for money that already exists in my reality. It's the same brain, the same intelligence, the same processing power. You've just redirected where it's looking. And because your subconscious doesn't discriminate between old programming and new programming, it simply executes whatever instruction you give it most consistently. The moment you start consistently reinforcing the nowhere command, your brain begins prioritizing different information. Behind the scenes of your conscious thought, there's an enormous amount of data your brain has access to but filters out as irrelevant. Old account balances, pending refunds, unclaimed assets, past transactions that never fully closed. Your subconscious knows all of this because it recorded every financial interaction you've ever had. But it's been filing that information under not currently important because you trained it to focus on future, earning potential rather than existing resources. The impact of shifting that filter is immediate and dramatic because suddenly all that archived information becomes priority data. The hidden truth is that you're not actually manifesting new money when you do this protocol. You're uncovering money that's been there all along. The revelations you experience aren't mystical downloads from the universe. They're your own brain finally showing you information it's been holding in storage for years. Your journey to financial abundance doesn't require you to become a different person or develop new skills. It requires you to reprogram your existing mental scanning mechanism to look in places you've been systematically ignoring your entire life. Comment below, "I'm reprogramming my scanner," if this fundamental shift in understanding is landing for you. The amplification loop is where this method becomes exponentially more powerful, and it's also where most people accidentally sabotage themselves by dismissing small wins. Here's what typically happens. Someone does the protocol, finds $20 in an old account, and their ego immediately says, "That's nothing, that doesn't count." And in that moment of dismissal, they've just told their subconscious that this frequency isn't working, so their brain stops scanning. But the hidden truth is that every single dollar that appears from nowhere, regardless of size, is confirmation that the frequency is active. When you find $5, $10, $20 from a channel you didn't create, that's not insignificant. That's proof the system is operational. The transformation from occasional manifestation to consistent flow happens when you acknowledge every single instance, because your brain doesn't care about the amount when it's learning a pattern. It cares about the repetition. Each time you say, "Money appears from nowhere again," after finding any amount, you're strengthening the neural pathway that makes this automatic. Behind the scenes, your subconscious is building a database of successful nowhere channel activations, and that database becomes the foundation for larger manifestations. The $5 finding today trains your brain to find the $500 opportunity tomorrow. Now let me address something critical before we go any further, because I don't want anyone misunderstanding what this protocol is actually about. This is not permission to become lazy. This is not an excuse to stop taking action in your life. This is not about sitting on your couch doing nothing and expecting money to rain from the sky while you binge-watch television. That's a fantasy, and anyone selling you that fantasy is lying. Hard work matters. Discipline matters. Building your skills, showing up for your career, creating value in the marketplace, all of that still matters fundamentally. What this protocol does is amplify the results of your existing efforts. It's a multiplier, not a replacement. Think of it like adding rocket fuel to a car that's already moving. The car still needs an engine, still needs wheels, still needs a driver actively steering, but that rocket fuel makes you go 10 times faster than you would have gone with just the engine alone. Your journey to wealth still requires you to show up, to contribute, to build, to serve. But while you're doing all of that necessary work, this protocol opens parallel channels that bring money in from directions you're not actively working on. The impact of understanding this distinction is crucial because it keeps you grounded in reality while still accessing the benefits of the frequency shift. You're not abandoning practical action in favor of magical thinking. You're combining smart, strategic effort with expanded awareness. Behind the scenes, you're working on your business or career during the day while your subconscious is simultaneously scanning for nowhere money. The revelations about forgotten accounts or unclaimed refunds happen alongside your hustle, not instead of it. Type, "I work and I receive," if you understand that this is about addition, not substitution. What's happening when you combine deliberate action with this protocol is something most people never experience because they operate in one extreme or the other. They're either grinding without any awareness work, or they're doing manifestation practices without taking real-world action. But when you bring both together, when you're actively building your career or business while simultaneously having your subconscious scan for nowhere money, you create a synergy that feels almost unfair. You're earning through your efforts and receiving through your awareness at the same time. Two income streams running parallel, and one of them requires zero additional time investment from you. The transformation that occurs when these channels open is that you start removing blocks you didn't even know were there. Because here's what most people don't realize. Source thinking isn't just limiting, it's actively blocking. When your entire identity is wrapped up in, I earn money through my work, you unconsciously reject money that comes through other channels. You might find $20 on the street and feel uncomfortable keeping it. You might receive an unexpected refund and immediately think, there must be a mistake. Your ego is so invested in the narrative that you earn everything through effort that receiving without effort feels wrong, feels undeserved, feels like cheating. But when you consciously activate the nowhere frequency and start acknowledging every instance of receiving, you're giving your subconscious permission to drop that block. You're essentially saying, it's safe to receive money I didn't work for, and your brain responds by making more of that available. Behind the scenes, you're rewiring your identity from someone who only earns to someone who both earns and receives. That identity shift is what makes this sustainable rather than a one-time fluke. The hidden truth about training your subconscious is that it learns through consistent acknowledgement. Every time unexpected money shows up, and I mean genuinely unexpected, not your paycheck or a planned payment, and you immediately say, money appears from nowhere again, you're creating a data point in your brain's pattern recognition system. One data point is interesting. 2 data points suggest a pattern. 10 data points confirm the pattern is reliable. 20 data points make it automatic. Your journey from consciously scanning for nowhere money to unconsciously noticing it happens through this repetition. The impact of this training compounds in ways you won't fully understand until you're 30 days into the protocol. Because by that point, you're not even thinking about it anymore. You'll just spontaneously remember an old account you need to check, or you'll get an intuitive nudge to look into something, and when you follow that nudge, money appears. Your brain has been so thoroughly trained that the scanning happens automatically in the background, while your conscious attention is focused on your work, your relationships, your life. The revelations become part of your normal operating system rather than something you have to consciously activate. Right? My subconscious is learning abundance if you're committed to this daily acknowledgement practice. Let me paint a very specific picture of what 30 days of consistent practice looks like, because understanding the trajectory helps you stay committed when results feel slow at first. During the first week, you might find 2 or 3 instances of nowhere money, maybe $50 here, $100 there. It feels good, but your rational mind might still be skeptical. By the second week, you're finding money more frequently, 4 or 5 instances that week. The amounts vary. Sometimes it's $20, sometimes it's $300. Your brain is getting better at scanning, and you're getting better at trusting the impulses. By week 3, you're in full flow. Money is appearing from channels you never would have thought to check. And by the end of 30 days, when you actually sit down and add up all the separate instances, you're looking at anywhere from $3,000 to $10,000 that appeared without any additional work on your part. Now let me be very clear about what that number represents. That's not your only income for the month. That's on top of whatever you earned through your regular efforts. It's supplemental abundance that compounds with your existing income streams. The transformation this creates in your financial reality is profound, because suddenly you're not living paycheck to paycheck or hustling constantly just to stay afloat. You have buffer, you have breathing room, you have margin. And that psychological shift from scarcity to sufficiency changes every decision you make. Behind the scenes, your stress levels drop, your creativity increases, your ability to take strategic risks improves. The impact ripples through every area of your life. But I know some of you are thinking, what if I do this and nothing shows up? Let me address that directly because it's a valid concern. If you're doing the protocol and not finding money, there's only one reason: you're not actually checking the channels your brain is giving you. You're either filtering the answers before you write them down, or you're writing them down, but not following through with the investigation. The hidden truth is that your brain is always giving you answers. It's physiologically impossible for your subconscious not to respond when you ask it a direct question. The question is whether you're listening without judgment and acting without hesitation. Here's what I want you to do if you feel stuck. Set a reminder on your phone for the same time every day for 7 days straight. When that reminder goes off, you say the command 3 times out loud. You ask where after each repetition. You write down every single answer, no matter how stupid it sounds. And then, within 24 hours, you check every channel. No exceptions, no filtering, no, "I'll check that one later." You check them all, because the money is there. It's sitting in some forgotten corner of your financial reality, waiting for you to notice it. Your journey from "this doesn't work" to "this absolutely works" is just 7 days of committed follow-through away. Comment, "I commit to 7 days," if you're willing to prove this to yourself through action rather than staying stuck in doubt. The maintenance phase is where most people fall off, and it's also where the real magic happens for those who stay consistent. Because here's what typically occurs. You do the protocol for a few days, you find some money, you get excited, and then life gets busy. You forget to do it one morning, then 2 mornings, then a week goes by and you haven't reinforced the frequency at all. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, the channels start closing. Your brain goes back to its default programming of only scanning for earning opportunities. The nowhere money stops appearing, not because it's gone, but because you stop telling your subconscious that it matters. The transformation from temporary results to permanent shift requires daily maintenance for at least 30 days. Every single morning, before you check your phone, before you start your work, before you dive into the chaos of your day, you take 3 minutes to say the command 3 times and ask where. Some mornings your brain will give you new channels to check. Some mornings it won't give you anything new, and that's completely fine. You're not doing this solely to get new answers every day. You're doing it to keep the frequency active, to remind your subconscious that this scanning pattern is still a priority. Behind the scenes of this daily practice, you're building neural permanence. The first few times you do anything, it requires conscious effort and attention. But with repetition, the behavior moves from your prefrontal cortex into your basal ganglia, which is where habits live. Once the nowhere scanning becomes habit, it runs automatically without requiring your conscious focus. That's when you've truly rewired your relationship with money. The impact of reaching that level of automaticity is that money starts appearing even when you're not actively thinking about the protocol. You'll be going about your day and suddenly get a flash of intuition to check something, and boom, there's money. Now here's a subtle but crucial aspect of the maintenance that amplifies everything exponentially. Every time you receive money from any source, and I mean any source, you acknowledge it by saying, "Money appears from nowhere again." This includes your paycheck. This includes client payments you were expecting. This includes money you earned through traditional means. Because what you're doing is training your brain that money flowing to you is normal, expected, and continuous. You're removing the scarcity mindset that treats each dollar as scarce and hard-won. The hidden truth is that most people only acknowledge unexpected money, which accidentally reinforces the belief that money is rare and surprising. But when you acknowledge all money, expected and unexpected, earned and received, you're telling your subconscious that you exist in a state of continuous flow. Your journey from lack to abundance isn't about making more money appear. It's about recognizing that money is already constantly flowing toward you through multiple channels simultaneously. Type Money flows to me continuously if you're ready to shift from scarcity acknowledgement to abundance acknowledgement. The final piece of the maintenance protocol happens right before you go to sleep. And this is where you leverage one of the most powerful states your brain enters every single day. When you're in that liminal space between waking and sleeping, your conscious mind starts to disengage and your subconscious becomes incredibly receptive to programming. This is the same state hypnotherapists use to install new beliefs and patterns. You don't need a hypnotherapist, though. You can do this yourself, simply by visualizing 5 specific scenarios of money appearing from nowhere channels before you drift off. The key is specificity. You're not just vaguely imagining having more money. You're creating detailed mental movies of yourself, checking an old account and seeing a balance you forgot about. You're visualizing opening your email and finding a refund notification. You're seeing yourself receiving an unexpected payment from a source you didn't anticipate. Make each scenario vivid and different. The more specific and varied your visualizations, the more search parameters you're giving your subconscious to work with overnight. Behind the scenes, while your body sleeps, your brain is processing these scenarios and looking for real-world correlates. It's scanning your memory banks for situations that match the patterns you visualized. The transformation that happens during sleep is profound because your conscious mind isn't interfering with doubt or skepticism. Your subconscious gets to work freely, making connections and surfacing information without your ego filtering everything. When you wake up, you'll often find that you spontaneously remember something you need to check, or you'll get an intuitive hit about a channel to investigate. That's not random. That's your subconscious delivering the results of its overnight processing. The impact of this bedtime practice compounds with the morning protocol to create a 24-hour cycle of frequency reinforcement. Now let me bring all of this together so you can see how the complete system works as a unified whole. Every morning you're activating the command and scanning for channels. Throughout the day, you're acknowledging every instance of money flowing to you. Every night, you're programming your subconscious with specific visualization scenarios. These 3 components create a feedback loop that becomes stronger with each cycle. You're not just doing isolated manifestation exercises, you're installing a completely new operating system for how your consciousness relates to money. The hidden truth that ties everything together is that this isn't actually about manifestation. In the mystical sense, it's about attention, awareness, and action. You're directing your attention to places it normally ignores. You're expanding your awareness to include channels you've been filtering out, and you're taking action on the information your subconscious provides. When these 3 elements combine with consistency over 30 days, the revelations become inevitable. Your journey from where you are now to living in continuous financial flow is simply a matter of following the system exactly as designed without skipping steps or letting doubt derail your commitment. Leave a comment saying, "I'm following the complete system," if you're ready to integrate all 3 components into your daily routine starting today. If you've made it this far, I want you to know that's significant. Most people click away after 30 seconds. The fact that you stayed through this entire process tells me something about you. You're not just casually curious about abundance, you're genuinely ready to shift your reality. And that readiness is what makes all the difference between people who talk about manifestation and people who actually experience it. I create content like this every single week because I genuinely believe that